We continue now with this week's installment of Sun Devil Extra from the Mountain America Credit Union Sun Devil Radio Network. I'm Tim Healey, the radio play-by-play voice of ASU football, men's basketball, and baseball, and it's my pleasure to serve as your host each week. Now, 8 years since the sports returned to Arizona State, the Sun Devil men's tennis team will play its first two matches, home matches of the 2024 season, this coming Friday at the Whiteman Tennis Center on the Arizona State campus. The Sun Devils will take on in-state rival NAU at 9 a.m. this Friday morning, January 12th, and then turn around and square off against the Shockers of Wichita State at 4 p.m. on Friday afternoon. Here with us this week to help preview his 2024 Sun Devil men's tennis team is the eighth-year head coach of the Sun Devils, our friend Matt Hill. Matt, great to see you. Happy New Year. How have you been? Haven't seen you in a while.
Good. Yeah, no, it's been good. Really good.
Great to have you on. Looking in from the outside to the inside, with 3 NCAA tournament appearances in the last 5 years, with a talented roster that also includes one of the best players in America in Murphy Cassone, it would seem to me that your program, 8 years in, is in a good place here at ASU. What say you about it?
Yeah, I think we're really starting to kind of ramp up and hit our stride after that first large group of players that we brought in to bring the program back graduated. So, I think this group we have right now is super special, and the future is incredibly bright with not only who we signed this year, but who we've signed next year coming in the fall. So it's definitely an exciting time for us, that's for sure.
How do you reflect back on the 2023 season? It ended with your team posting a 14-12 record, getting into the NCAA tournament, and posting a first-round match win over 24th-ranked Illinois before falling to host Harvard in round 2.
Yeah, I thought it was a really good year, considering the circumstances. Right, we only had 7 players, which on a roster of tennis, that's a very small roster.
Right.
You're 1 injury or 2 injuries away from kind of being in a pickle, since we play 6 players all times. I thought the players managed the season really well, considering that. And then I thought we peaked really well at the right times. Whether that was some matches that we had highlighted, like against Baylor at their place. That was our first time beating them in a long time. They're kind of a known program in the world of men's tennis. And then, like you said, the match against Illinois was a fantastic match from the guys. They really handled a lot of the adversity well that day and kind of just stayed the course. So it was good, really good.
And of course, better than good, great, I guess, is the adjective that describes your top player, Murphy Cassone, one of the best in the country, ASU's first men's tennis All-American since 1995, first team All Pac-12, and made it to the semifinals of the NCAA singles tournament in Orlando last year. Talk about the impact Murphy's had on your program.
Yeah, drastic, right? You always are looking for those guys, especially with a young program like what we have here, where we're still getting our stride and building a name for ourselves on a national scale and a global scale, even recruiting-wise. You're looking for those guys that are program changers. And Murphy is, without a doubt, one of those. He's a guy that not only with what he does on the court, but off the court as well, with how disciplined he is. He's a leader by example, without doubt. And then, the recruiting, it helps with recruiting, right? When you have a player like that other players are interested in training with and pushing them and trying to help them move the needle, it helps there as well. So, he's without a doubt a program changer for this kind of second cycle that we're in with this program.
Murphy will join us in the next segment of this week's show, but in a conversation with him earlier, he was talking about the trust he felt with you in terms of why he decided to come to Arizona State from high school in the Kansas City area. And he also talked about the fact that his recruitment time was right at the end of COVID, and that had to be a challenging situation. But did you sense that trust right away from him when you were recruiting?
Yeah, I mean, look, he's a very unique individual. Once you kind of get in his inner circle, he's incredibly trusting. But that takes a little bit of time. So I would say during the recruitment process, no, honestly. I think that was built over the course of months and months of actually being together. But I definitely sensed during the recruitment process that we were in a better place with trust with him than some of the other coaches and schools that he was looking at, just because of the way we navigate the recruiting process. When we're recruiting, that trust component is the most important thing to us when we're recruiting. And so we did sense that, but I think, from a relational standpoint, a coach-player relational, I'd say that took, quite some more time.
On the court, what are some of the qualities that make him so special as a player, in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, he has a lot of the whole package, really, when you see him from a skill set standpoint. Usually a guy that maybe has a really good serve, typically the return is not as strong, or vice versa. He's always a guy that I've seen, like, he's good on both sides of the ball. He serves very well and he returns very well. So, that starts the point in incredible fashion. And then he's very balanced on the court. His coaches in Kansas and in Florida did a really nice job with him on both the forehand and the backhand, which, again, most guys are usually good or favor one side, and he doesn't care what side. So there's no holes on the court when you're playing him to put the ball to where you're safe. Mm-hmm. And then I would say, lastly, he kind of has that X factor, if you will. Like, he just plays better in the biggest moments. You just have those players that when it's crunch time and push comes to shove, he's going to come up with the goods, because he just does it time and time and time again. So aside from the obvious needs of being a player of his caliber with athleticism and tennis IQ and all the other details, I would say those things, the uniqueness, stand out to me, of how balanced he is with his skills, and then how good he is when he really needs to, step up, in that moment.
Isn't that the attribute, though, of all great athletes and great sport in all sports, is the ability to be at your best in the most crucial and most significant moments?
Totally. And it's something that's, as a coach, it's very difficult to coach. Some guys just aren't innate, naturally have that. They really love the moment. I remember when we were in New York hitting at the U.S. Open 2 years ago playing, and he was practicing on center court, and there were thousands of people just watching the practice, and ESPN's everywhere, and Djokovic had just finished, so that's why there were so many people out there. He had just finished practicing, and we were standing there waiting to come on. And it was funny. He was started hitting, and he looked amazing, and he turned to me and said, "Isn't it weird that this is so easy to me, and I can't write a 5-page paper without struggling," And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, that's because this is what you're supposed to be doing, And
that's what God had in mind when He created you.
Exactly right. No, where the other guy we were hitting with was nervous, couldn't put the ball on the court.
Wow.
So.
Well, I mean, as good as Murphy is, he's not a one-man team. You have a lot of talented players on your team. Tell our viewers some of the other players you'll be leaning on with Murphy this year.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, look, he can't win the team matches for us, right, by himself, and he's learning that, and we're learning. We know that, obviously. And so, I mean, we have Max McKinnon, who's a senior and is one of the best players in the country and has won 1 million matches for us over the years, who brings great leadership and experience to the table, along with Jacob Bullard, who had transferred from Texas a few years ago. Those two lefties out of California will be, a dynamic pair for us in singles, and then they're both really, really good in doubles as well. And then we added some incredible talent this year with, Bor Artnek is coming out of Slovenia. He plays Davis Cup for Slovenia, and he was top 10 in the world in juniors. He's top 500 in the world on the Pro Tour. He made, let's say, 5 semis or better in the last 5 pro tournaments he's played. And then we added Martin Vergara, a transfer from Miami. He's 30 in the world, sophomore, lefty. Plays Davis Cup for Paraguay. They won their group this summer when I was down there with them. Daniel Phillips plays Davis Cup for Bermuda. He's a true freshman, really impressive talent. trains out of Florida. And then, yeah, we have the guys that really did the work last year too, right? We didn't lose anybody. You know, we have Konstantinos Koscius, who was top 50 in the world and is on the national team for Cyprus. Roy Jeanette from Israel, who was a big piece of the lineup last year and was top 1,000 in the world on Israeli's national team. And so, yeah, I mean, you go down the list, and there's just so many good pieces to the puzzle this year, so much depth. You know, the problem we have this year in front of the coaching staff is who's playing, you know, who's going to get to
problem
play.
to have,
Yeah,
isn't
great
it?
problem to have. That's the problem you have if you have a good team, right? Is you've got really good players that aren't going to get playing time, and how do you navigate that within the locker room, and how do you give opportunities to make sure you've got the right data set to make good choices when it really matters at the back end of the season. So, you know, that's the position we're in right now, which is, again, it's a great position coming off last year where the 7-man team where you're just praying that everybody stays healthy so you can keep moving the needle forward. So, but yeah, it's an exciting time for us. You know, we didn't graduate anyone and added 3 really, really good players. And so, yeah, it's going to be fun.
And recruiting, you and I, when we've always talked, you talk about how you recruit. I would imagine in your sport you have to recruit internationally. I mean, you have such an international flavor on your team.
Yeah, I mean, we, you know, the exciting thing for our, you know, our fans is our recruitment class for next year. We signed 3 of the top 25 players in the United States that'll be coming to Tempe in August.
Wow.
So it's funny. It cycles. It's when we restarted the program, we had to go international because all the Americans signed so early. We didn't have a choice. And then we knew the American piece was such a critical component to us building out a really, really high-level roster here. So we had to get back into the American market while having a full international roster, which is challenging when they do official visits and they don't know anyone. And now, you know, we have, you know, Murphy's American and Max is American, Jacob, and Spencer. I mean, half of our team is American. And so that's led us to really acquiring some of the very best talent coming into college tennis next year. And so it's a mix. You know, it's such a global sport.
Yeah.
You know, there's tennis is the 3rd most popular sport in the world, and so there's some incredible talent around the world available to us. But there's just some huge benefits to having, you know, really strong Americans on the team too. So we like a nice hybrided roster for what Arizona State offers and how we think, you know, we can build a team that's competing for championships here. We see a hybrided roster here at Arizona State for sure.
How will the move to the Big 12 conference for Arizona State impact tennis, do you think, men's tennis?
You know, I mean, we'll go east instead of west in terms of flying. I mean, instead of being in California, we'll be in Texas. You know, it's not that big of a shake. We've got 9 teams on there. We actually, you know, all the universities don't have men's tennis. So it's honestly not very big of a change at all. We were already playing a lot of the Big 12 teams.
Right. You mentioned Baylor. You play TCU
Yeah,
a lot.
TCU, Texas, Oklahoma. We've been playing those teams ever since I got here. So those home and away contracts will move to later in the season, and I envision some of the California contracts moving to earlier in the season, right? Pending they don't have too big of requirements from their conferences that they're moving to a lot of teams in those ones, so that could be tricky. But no, and then it's a phenomenal men's tennis conference. I mean, Baylor has won national championships, and they're hosting the national championships in 2 years. This year, the national championships are at Oklahoma State. So some of the very best facilities in tennis are in the Big 12. Some rich history. I mean, TCU's been one of the only schools that's been top 5 or 10 for the last decade, and they're constantly in the mix for national championships. David Roditi and Devin do such a great job there. So yeah, a lot of close friends in that conference, a lot of really competitive teams. So it'll be fun. It'll be really fun.
Boy, it sounds like it's going to be great.
Yeah.
I mean, I know in men's basketball it's maybe the best league in the country, and it sounds like tennis may be the same. I wanted to ask you quickly about a guy who's been by your side, I think pretty much since you've been here at Arizona State, and he got a promotion during the offseason, Dominic Catrone.
Yeah.
Now you're associate head coach, so he's gone from volunteer assistant to assistant coach to now associate head coach. What has he brought to your program?
So much, so much. I mean, Dom played for me back at South Florida, so he knows how I work, how I tick, as playing under me, so he can relate that to the players. And then, yeah, like you said, he's been here since day one. I mean, 2016 and 2017, we weren't playing tennis yet. We were trying to build out a program and a roster and hire coaches and find players, and so he was a key piece of that process from the very, very beginning to, building what we're working with today. So, yeah, he's invaluable. Our relationship, goes beyond work. Obviously, our value set is the same. We both have families and little kids, and we go to the same church. And there's so many synergistic, natures to how we function, what we do. But we're also very, very different, like how we function. So that's helpful. I'm so analytical and so detail oriented with things, and Dominic is so good at pulling back big picture and simplifying things. That helps me in a lot of ways. His emotional intelligence is really, really probably one of his best characteristics, especially on-court coaching in matches when things get heated. He's so good in that space, and so yeah, he's fantastic. We definitely wouldn't be here if he hadn't left the tour when he did and decided to join the staff. There's no doubt.
Sounds like a well-deserved promotion to me. So finally, as fans want to head out to the Whiteman Tennis Center, what can they expect to see on Friday? Double header for you, NAU in the morning, Wichita State later in the afternoon. I imagine you're anxious to see this bunch get back at it again.
Yeah, I mean, we actually just landed it from Miami, 2:30 and 1:30 in the morning yesterday. Wow. So we were down in preseason. We played against Texas, who is a team that is everyone's talking about for a national championship this year. So it was us, Texas, LSU, and Miami beating each other up for the last few days. So we've seen them a little bit already, but of course it's so nice to be at home and be in front of our fans and be where we train every day. So yeah, we're super excited. I mean, I think the fans are going to see, just great depth. Great tennis all the way through to line 6. They're gonna be watching guys at line 6 that play Davis Cup for their home country.
Wow.
And so, and they're gonna see some of the best pros in the world at the very top spots. Murphy, Bora, and Max have been playing on the tour now for a while and doing really well out there. So. Yeah, if you enjoy watching great tennis, I mean, that's definitely what you're going to get. I will say, listening to your opening scene, this morning we had to move the matches back 2 hours because of the cold front going on and the ITA rules. So we will start at 11 a.m. on Friday, and then the later match will be at 5 p.m. So, but there's a match in between with Wichita State and NAU will play each other as well. So if you're an NAU alum or something like that as well, I mean, they'll be playing in the middle of the day.
There you go.
Be some good tennis.
So again, it'll be 11 a.m. for the Sun Devils and the Lumberjacks of NAU, and then did you say 5 p.m.?
5 p.m., yes,
5 p.m. for the match against Wichita State, but that'll be this Friday, January 12th at the Whiteman Tennis Center. Always great to visit with you, Matt.
Yes,
Happy New Year. Best of luck to you and the team this year.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me. Always good to be here.
Sun Devil men's tennis coach Matt Hill's been our guest on this segment of Sun Devil Extra. Coming up, we're going to get a chance to visit with Matt's best player and one of the best players in all of college tennis, as Sun Devil junior Murphy Cassone will drop by for a visit. That's coming up after this. This is Sun Devil Extra from the Mountain America Credit Union Sun Devil Radio Network.